I'm here.
Hi everyone, this is Sigal from the Mom and Dad Academy. Today we're going to be talking about an interesting subject called giftedness in children. I'm here with my good friend Orna Wachtel, who's going to be telling us about her experience with giftedness. She's been studying the subject. She's a mom of two boys, ages 5 and 3, and has become very knowledgeable about it. She's been teaching me about it lately, and I thought it would be interesting for you all to watch as well. So, welcome, Orna.
Hi, Sigal. How are you?
Good, good, good to have you here, and we are excited to learn from you. I guess I want to ask you first to tell us all your story with your children and giftedness.
Well, I think that first I am happy to share my story because the thing that we have noticed in the past few years more than anything else is that our son and gifted children as a whole, they don't really get the attention that they deserve. And in actually many cases, they're even asked um, to hide their giftedness, not to be who they really are, and then labeled as weird, as eccentric, and all kinds of other labels. And I think this is why it's time to raise the voice about giftedness for these children. And our experience with giftedness started very early on when our older one, Ari, was a baby. And I think most parents to gifted children notice the differences between their children and their peers at a very early age. And it has different symptoms and it shows in different ways. But usually we see children who are very advanced with very early, sometimes physical abilities, walking very fast. They start talk early or very late. Um, they are very curious. They have an amazing sense of humor at a very early age. And there are other attributes of gifted children which I really would like to ask you all to just go online and look for attributes of gifted children, and I'm sure that all parents of gifted children will find their children very much inside within this realm of symptoms and attributes. Um,
So you, Orna, forgive me, I'm curious to know, you picked up that your kids are doing things that other kids are not doing, and
yes.
what's going on in your head
So
as
when
you're
Ari was
noticing this?
when he was very young, it was our first son. We didn't know what to expect, and we first noticed a sense of humor at a very early age. He was very young baby. I think he was about 3 4 months old, and he was watching something on TV. I think it was kind of one of those baby Einstein something CDs or something that we put for the music, never thinking he would actually understand. And there were a few comic um, um, scenes in those CDs when he actually laughed as he understood the humor behind it. And I thought that was weird and then never thought of it again. When he was about a year old, already walking and running, he started to be very interested in numbers. He would run to car license plates and touching the numbers. In Israel, it's all numbers, there's no letters. He was touching the numbers, patting them, and obsessed with this, with the numbers on the license plates of cars. And a good friend of mine who's a child psychologist asked me once, how did you know he was not into cars? How did you know he was into the car license plate? And I can only tell you that it was so obvious that he doesn't care for the car whatsoever. And he had many cars to play with, as you usually buy for boys. And he didn't care for the cars. All he wanted to do was to walk around the license plates and look at the numbers and touch them. And at the year and a half, he was way into, he recognized all the numbers and all the Hebrew alphabet, and he knew the letters. He would know. he couldn't speak, but he would know to attach a word to the letter it starts with, and all kinds of stuff that we kind of noticed that was kind of way out there. His interests in reading, in letters, in numbers and stuff that are um, very hard to understand. The concept of these symbols at this age, and as he grew older and he started to speak, then when he was about 2.5, he did addition and subtraction very easily. We kind of understood that was not normal.
Right.
And when at 3 years old, when he did all the multiplication tables by himself, only by, I don't know, looking at watching funny movies on the iPad or something, and without any of us ever teaching him or sitting with him doing this, we understood that it was different.
What did you
Later
do?
on, nothing. At that point, we did nothing. I just let him do it. I just let him be who he was. I got some number puzzles and all kinds of like very childish number games. Not really games, but just toys. And he would play with it. He would create stuff by himself. I didn't do anything with it. At this point, both of us, we were very worried to be looked at as parents who are accelerating their children, these tiger mom and dad who are trying to, I don't know, whatever to do with their son. And it was very hard to, it still is sometimes hard to explain to other parents that we have never sat down with him for a minute to actually explain those things. And it's completely something that comes from within him. And he is a math phenomena. Now we understand it. And it's just who he is. And we just had to learn to respect him and to just let him be. The only thing we started to be worried about, and this is why it was important to me to join you in this session, was his social life. Because he is extremely friendly and very social, and he loves his friends, and he always did, and he was always surrounded with friends. But the problem was, as he started to grow a little older, 3.5, 4 years old, that there started to be a gap between him and other children who are not interested in his own world with reading, math, and when we came to the U.S., the first time I heard a child in his daycare saying Ari is weird was when I understood that I have to do something about it. I cannot just let him be.
What did you do
Um,
about it?
I decided that I'm going to look for the right place for him, that I cannot just sit there and trying to tell him Ari when friends come over to try and persuade him not to be who he is. This is what I was trying to do. I was trying to tell him, Ari, your friends don't really understand what you're doing. Maybe they don't really like numbers. Maybe you try to play with something they also like, whatever. And he couldn't because that was his passion. And I understood that my request from him is just unfair because it's like asking a child who's extremely musical not to listen to music or not to be musical. To a child who's amazing with sports and really like to jump and run and do stuff with his body, to ask him to sit down all day and play and do something that he's not on to do. And this is when we found by accident, actually, a gifted school here in New Jersey. And this school, which I guess if you go to any school for gifted children, or you put a gifted child in a gifted child program, this is when you start to see the change because he found friends that are drawn to the same subject as he is, and he can play numbers and he can play letters and he can invent with them and he can do science stuff with them, and it's just changed our experience
And
with him and for him.
that is very interesting. It's interesting. Your second son is following in the older son's footsteps, and you're noticing similar things.
He is definitely an amazingly advanced boy. he was reading and writing before he was 2, and he's now 3. He reads books that are what's called here, I think, second grade level,
Wow.
by himself. And he's not even 3. He'll be 3 at the end of May. And so he's extremely advanced. I'm not sure he's a math phenomena like Ari. He's very advanced with language and arts. He does get numbers. I'm not sure to the same level as Ari does. But he's extremely advanced and he's very drawn to this. And again, it might be an influence from his brother, but yet, well, a lot of it is his. And again, we felt, and we do feel now even more after we saw the difference between having them in a regular daycare. Both of them went to Jewish schools here in New Jersey. And once you put a child like that in a place where all children are gifted, it's just night and day difference in the experience for the child. And what I want to encourage people to do is, if you feel your child might be advanced, and I think parents now, you know that there is a difference between this child and their peers. That it's not, you know, as a parent, when it's your work, when it was your acceleration doing this, and when it actually came from the child and you were responding to this. Okay. I mean, when you're honest with yourself, you know that. And if you do notice that, I think you should get your son or daughter tested, evaluated, and if it is found out that their IQ is above a certain number, try to get them first and foremost into some kind of place. It could be after hours, it could be weekends, it could be a school if you feel that's needed, where they have an opportunity to spend time with children who are at their level academically, because it is emotionally liberating for them, amazingly emotionally liberating for them.
Anything else that parents of gifted children who are just starting out on the gifted track should keep in mind?
I think first and foremost, read. Get knowledgeable about it. Don't try and deal with it yourself. This is at the end of a spectrum. We're talking about children and people who have IQ that is higher than 99% of the population, and that's the end of a spectrum. As much as you would do for a child who's at the other end of the spectrum, you would go to the end of the world to find solutions for them, and to improve their life. You should remember that your gifted child also needs special attention and special education that is true for them, and that is really, really important emotionally. First and foremost, read. Be knowledgeable about it. Get consultation from child psychologists that are expert in this. You can always, I guess, look it up online wherever you are, and move on from there.
I want to thank you, Orna, because I am in the beginning of my journey of looking into giftedness. This subject is very interesting, and thank you for equipping other parents with some advice and tools and sharing your story with us. And we're going to bring you back to talk some more about it, because there's a lot to say about it. Public school versus private school, what curriculum to choose, and many other challenges that come up with gifted children. So I thank you very much.
Sure.
And
my pleasure.
We'll be talking again very soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.